Siftpop podcast is recorded in front of a live internet audience. Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks. We do not podcast with our mouths. He who podcasts with his mouth has forgotten the face of his father. We podcast with our minds. It's Siftpop.
Long days and pleasant nights, Aaron.
That one was for you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Welcome to Siftpop, streaming live on Mixlr every Friday afternoon or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks.
Heil.
I'm Aaron Dicer from YourMovieFriend.com. I'm joined by Andrew Ormsby from Flick Freaks.
Ahoy!
And each week, we're usually joined by a pop culture guru to chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. But today, Andrew... It takes two, baby. Yeah.
It takes... Oh, yeah.
Me and you, Andrew. Just me and you. That's all it takes.
It.
Just takes two. It doesn't take more than that. We can make the Dark Tower review happen with just the two of us.
I'm wondering how many songs there are about just two that you're going to run through.
Every time we don't have a guru?
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, man. We'll see. We'll try to figure it out. How are you feeling? Before we get to the, we've got the review coming up with the Dark Tower. I just want to kind of gauge...
Physically or emotionally?
Yeah, I'm just I got a lot of Twitter, hits this week asking about, is Andrew doing okay? He saw the Dark Tower. It's his favorite thing ever in the history of mankind. The books are.
True, yeah.
So, they just wanted to check in on you,
That's kind of people. That's very kind of people. They're about to find out whenever we do the review.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to make them wait a little bit longer because we still have one more thing to discuss before that.
Yeah, we've got some stuff going on. Speaking of stuff going on, the whole studio where we record is moving in the next month. So
yeah.
It could be an interesting month, figuring out recordings and, podcasts, that kind of stuff. So So that's my mind's there because if you don't know this, the studio is in my home. So that means my whole home is moving in the next month or so.
Surprise.
So, yeah, exactly. It was a surprise, which is, another reason it's kind of crazy. But we're figuring it out, and we will do our best to make sure we keep the Sift Pops coming.
You've been tackling it with grace, Aaron.
Oh, thanks, man.
I don't see you getting, this whole kerfuffle of having to move really quickly.
Yeah.
You seem to be taking it all in stride. So I don't see you as a person. Honestly, I don't see you as a person who really shows that kind of stuff emotionally outwards. You just keep all that stuff inside.
Yeah. Well, I love emotion. I have no problem showing emotion. I think I was gifted with an easygoing spirit, so stuff just kind of rolls off me. Too easygoing, some would say at some point. You know what I mean? I will have times
to your detriment.
Yeah, I will have times where people are like, "You need to get angry about this. You need to do something." Just I don't, man. It's all going to work out.
Yeah.
I just kind of have that, as the dude mentality, where it's just
I like that about you, though.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
Well, it can come in handy every once in a while.
It makes you very approachable.
Well, we're about to approach some really fun stuff. We've got, of course, our buried treasure. We've got a really cool Sift quest I'm excited to talk about. We're going to review the Dark Tower. But first, let's talk about some Do We Care?
Every single week, I scour the internets to find out what is going on in the entertainment world. I pick 3 topics for us to discuss, and we must decide whether or not we care about them.
Alrighty.
Topic number 1. Daniel Craig will be returning as James Bond in 2019.
That's kind of a surprise. I really thought he was done.
Me too.
So are you excited about this?
He's 2 for 2. He's made 2 good James Bonds, and he's made 2 bad James Bonds.
Oh, 2 and 2. When you said 2 for 2, I was like, I think he's made more than 2.
2 for 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 for 4.
You're right. I would actually agree with that. And even the bad ones, he's not bad in. So you can't really put all that on his shoulders. But I think I'm fine with it. He's a good actor. He works his Bond. I was kind of ready for a new Bond. It's one of those characters that we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing a new face there every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Like Doctor Who or, kind of one of those things. And I was ready. So now I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm not ready.
I think the thing is with James Bond, haven't they been spreading out his movies a lot more than what they normally spread out the movies? If you think Pierce Brosnan, I think they were coming out every year, a new James Bond.
Yeah, because at that point,
Connery and Moore were putting them out nonstop. How many Bonds did each of those guys do?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons he's been willing to do it, right? Is because he can do other stuff. Like when Brosnan was doing it, that was it. That was all he was doing. And I think they realized, or Daniel realized, that he didn't want to get himself locked into that character for a decade.
Yeah.
Where, that's all anybody recognized him for. And so I think he's probably part of the reason they spaced those out, I would guess.
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited.
Somebody asked in the chat if Nolan is going to be directing, because we did discuss a couple weeks ago that Nolan wants to do a Bond film. There is no set director right now. Yeah,
I don't think he will. I think that was just him, chatting about, franchises he'd like a shot at kind of thing.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still open to it. If he wants to do Bond, let him do Bond.
Bond is one of those interesting franchises. It's been around forever, man.
Yeah, it truly has.
I heard somebody compare it to superhero movies in that people ask, how long are superhero movies going to last? And they said, well, look at James Bond. It can last, forever. It'll shift. It'll change, So I think they're right. I think the superhero genre will be with us forever.
That's true. Number 2.
Yep.
This is a long one, so bear with me.
No problem.
Lionsgate won a bidding war against Warner Brothers and Universal over a screenplay about a female assassin entitled Ballerina. Now, since Lionsgate bought it, Lionsgate officials have stated that they want to weave this script into the universe of John Wick. But what do you think about taking a script for a movie that is not intended for a universe and forcing it into it?
I am totally fine with it. It happens all the time. I think it happens the majority of the time. The majority of scripts that you see in sequels or expanded universes actually came from a different place. They came from an original idea. I do see how, we could start to get frustrated by the fact that original ideas don't get to see their own light of day. Mm-hmm. But as long as I feel like some of that is still happening, I don't mind, them adapting these kind of things.
Yeah. And we've discussed before about the John Wick films. The one big pro that they have is the universe itself. That
great universe building.
Is so fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it would easily lend itself to another one. I just didn't know about, taking something and then repurposing it.
Yeah, I thought at first you were going to say as the Atomic Blonde sequel.
No. Nope, we're going John Wick.
That could be interesting.
Yep. Number 3?
Yeah, go for it.
Warner Brothers is revamping the novel The Body Snatchers for the 5th time. This will be I guess it'll be the 4th time that they're revamping it. It's the 5th one. So the first one came out in 1956, and next one comes out, I think, next year.
So tell me about your connection to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because I have done. So my answer would be no, I don't.
Me neither.
I don't really care.
So I didn't know if you did. You had 5, I guess I had 5 times to see this movie too, but we both failed on that front.
I don't know, it just doesn't, but I'm not a horror guy either, so, it's just kind of like, I just have never been interested in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It just feels, is it just... is it an alien movie where they invade the body? Okay.
I'm pretty
just
sure
really not.
What it is, they invade your body, obviously, hence the title, but you never know who's infected.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing, whenever, it changes and it looks like humans, you don't know if it's real or not. So, like that.
Well, just for a matter of correction and clarification, they don't invade your body, according to the title. They snatch your body, according to the title. They invade your world and then snatch your body. So it's the invasion of the things that snatch bodies.
Well played. That's going to wrap it up for Do We Care, Aaron.
All right. Let's do it. Let's talk about the Dark Tower.
These visions, as you call them.
What do you see?
I see a tower, the man in black, and the gunslinger.
They're just dreams. They're not real, Jake.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
The Dark Tower has arrived. Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger, is locked in an eternal battle with Walter O'Dim, also known as the Man in Black. The gunslinger must prevent the Man in Black from toppling the Dark Tower, the key that holds the universe together. Of course, that doesn't really talk any about the little boy that's involved in this. I say little boy, the teenage boy that's involved in this movie. Kind of a lot different plot points going on there. Can I just say, even before we start this conversation, I know we're all anticipating Andrew's thoughts on the thing that is most important to him in the entire universe. But can I just say, I saw the trailer to The Dark Tower after I watched the movie because I was putting together my review, and so I watched the trailer, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I have not been this frustrated with a trailer in a long time. Every single thing that is cool about this movie is in that trailer. Like, my mind was blown by what they give away in that trailer. I was just, I feel like these are the moments where I cry out to the masses to take the Zero Frames pledge. Like, take the pledge, see the movie in its original form, and maybe you can have a little more fun than you would otherwise.
I hope you can understand why this movie in particular, I could not take that pledge.
Well, there are a lot of factors with you, Andrew. I would never ask you to take the pledge. I'm just saying, if you have been burnt like me, come alongside me and together we will take the Zero Frames pledge. It's time now for the Siftpop Zero Frames pledge.
I knew it was coming.
I, Aaron Dicer, commit to seeing each movie in its purest storytelling form, not allowing a single moment of the story to be seen out of story context through trailers or early scene releases. As much as it is within my ability, I will see every frame of every movie for the first time as a completed work. We will now together recite the hashtag Zero Frames motto. The story just won't be the same if you've seen a single frame. So 0 frames becomes our goal to see the film complete and whole. Hashtag 0 frames challenge.
Hashtag.
All right, we can continue now.
All right.
Well, Andrew, did you like it, love it? It was just okay, dislike it, or hated it?
Just in case we have new people listening to this, I'm going to let everybody know what's going on with me in this movie and the books.
Okay.
So, in case you don't know, I love the Dark Tower series by Stephen King more than any book, movie, video game, show, or song. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite medium of all time.
Yeah.
I have Dark Tower tattoos. I like the Dark Tower more than I like some people.
Just some?
Just some. Most people are pretty chill. So if I had to choose between reading the Dark Towers or having that perfect person even exist, I think I'd say, yeah, you're okay, you can stay. But
Nice.
there are some people.
There are some people whose existence doesn't outrank the Dark Tower.
Exactly.
Got it.
So, Aaron, I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Uh-huh.
How did I feel about it?
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I feel like that was coming. Like, I feel like you knew that was coming in a lot of ways.
I want you to know, though.
Yeah.
I did not hype this movie up. I had my expectations for this movie low. I want everybody to know that.
Yeah.
I did not think this movie was going to be the greatest thing of all time. Because I'd heard horror stories of the production of this movie. I'd heard, how they were possibly changing it and that this was actually not going to be an adaptation of the books, but it was going to be a sequel to the books. So I've heard all that, and I was upset by all that. And so my expectations were low going into this.
Yeah.
But I still hated it.
That's too bad, man.
What do you think?
I'm on the high side of it was okay. Almost to liked it.
Excellent.
I had a good enough time with this that I got really close to saying liked it. I gave it a C+, but almost a B-.
Okay.
So I thought there was plenty to enjoy here. And again, I'll give you my background. I don't know a thing about the books. I haven't read a single word. So
I'm going to have to rely a lot on you for this podcast, Aaron.
Okay.
Because a lot of my critiques are in comparison to the source material. Because I could not separate whenever I was watching this movie. I'm like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. So it's difficult for me to separate performances, productions, cinematography, and all that whenever I know that it's not right.
Well, and it's not just the direct comparison to the source material. It's the attachment you have to the source material too. When you've got that deep of an attachment to something, it's like saying, it's almost as if they're making a biopic about you, and you're like, that's not me. I don't do that. That's not who so you kind of get, as somebody who's attached to the source material, I can totally see how that would happen. Well, we'll start usually with the positive, so I guess that falls on me.
I have a positive.
Why don't you go ahead and give your pro then?
Okay, this movie does get one thing right about the from the transition of the source material.
Okay.
Roland Deschain is supposed to be otherworldly, even mythical as a gunslinger.
Yeah.
His revolvers are a extension of him. So he is from the line of Eld, meaning he is one of the greatest sharpshooters, gunslingers, gunsmen of all time. They nail that in this movie. His ability with the quick reloads, his deadly accuracy, that's perfect. Whenever I think Roland, what I saw on screen was what he could do.
And I think a lot of that has to do, and I'll just transition into one of my big pros. I think a lot of that has to do with Idris Elba too. He is really good in that role.
He's okay.
I thought he was phenomenal. I loved what he brought. I loved the presence he brought to that character and into the screen.
I'll say this. A lot of the performances in this movie are good for what they were given as far as script.
Okay.
So maybe whenever I say Idris Elba is okay, he's probably really good for what he was told to do, but compared to who Roland actually is, that's nothing like him.
So, okay, because you're just coming from saying that they got Roland right in one area. So what's the distinction between, like, the character itself and... You just mean the gunslinging stuff? Like how good he is with the guns?
How good he is with the guns, that's what they got right.
Okay.
If I were to say... Hopefully it won't be... It might be too spoiler-esque for me to say what his persona is like in this movie. So maybe I'll save that for spoilers.
Sure, that's fine.
So you have more pros?
Yeah, absolutely. I liked most of the acting in this movie. My problem with the characters didn't have to do with the performances. I did have some problems with the characters, but we can get to that in a little bit. I will say Matthew McConaughey is playing I would say a devil-like character.
Yes.
And he has the gift of, instructing people to do things and they do them, which is exactly the same as David Tennant in Jessica Jones. And I forget the name of that character.
Kilgrave.
Kilgrave, yes, the same as Kilgrave. And my problem was, I was like, oh, David Tennant was so much better at this. But he was fine. He was fine. Like, there's something really cool about that, like, easygoing, Maleficent, kind of thing. But
Murph, I told you 100 times.
But I kept comparing him to Tennant for that. I really loved this world. And it's unfortunate if it's not the world that you loved from the books. Apparently it's different. Maybe we talk about that here or in spoilers or maybe a little of both. But I loved how clear and simple this idea is that they give about the Dark Tower, what it is, how it works, and what the motivations are for these characters. Mm-hmm. I felt like it felt like a really well-contained story.
That's fascinating.
So it felt to me like I always knew, I always understood what everybody's motivation was. I always knew where everybody, was heading, what they were trying to do, and why they were trying to do it. And it was interesting in the fact that I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. I've never, Stephen King's mind just slays me. Like, he can just create these ideas of this tower that is holding back demons in...
Well, I'll tell you right now, everything you're saying right now is not the books.
Yeah, well...
So, that's not Stephen King's mind. That's Akiva Goldsman's mind.
Well, maybe, didn't King... he's certainly on board. I've seen him giving interviews about the movie, and, it's his baby.
Yeah, but...
I'm excited to go into details, because I cannot wait to find out, what you mean when you say that's not the book, because there's a Dark Tower in the book. Are you saying the Dark Tower in the book... Or maybe there's not a Dark Tower in the book. It's called the Dark Tower.
That's the thing. Okay, I'll say this. In the books, Roland Deschain is on a quest to get to the Dark Tower. He's not there to protect it. He's there to get it because his world, as we've seen in the book, his world is dying. He's going to the Dark Tower to see if it's even real, and if it is, if there's anything inside it that can fix his world.
Whoa, that's so different.
Isn't it very different?
Yeah.
And
what I'm telling you is I liked this version. Yeah. I didn't know the other version.
The Man in Black isn't really his nemesis. He's a stepping stone. Because the Man in Black knows where the Dark Tower is. So all he's doing is trying to find him to get to the Dark Tower.
I would be really interested to see Stephen King's, to really hear a really vulnerable, transparent interview with him about this process and just kind of how he informed this story as it compares to the other stories. Because that's quite a departure.
Well, he sold the rights to this for $19.19, so he probably didn't have too much invested in it. So
that's not enough. He probably should have sold it for maybe $19.19.
Yeah,
something like that.
Then he might have cared more about it. But so you said that you love this world that was given to you in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I was worried from people coming into this not being familiar with the source material there's a lot dropped on people in this movie as far as like,
is there?
Wait, what is that? What is that? Maybe it's because I know like little things that I keep picking up here and there. I'm like, man, that's a lot to drop on somebody, and it's all wrong. For me, I know it's wrong, but at the same time, like, so.
But I didn't know it was wrong. It was just what it was.
It's totally wrong. But at
it's
the same
not.
time,
it's the story the movie's telling. Like, you can't say it's like, okay, you can say it's different, but I don't think you can say it's wrong. I mean, it's the story they wanted to tell.
If it's a sequel to the books, it's wrong.
Is it a sequel to the books?
That's what everybody's saying, that it's a continuation from where the books leave off. And if it is, then it negates information provided in the books.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it is interesting for me because I have none of that context, and I didn't really find it confusing or hard to follow at all.
Well, that's what I was concerned about, because like maybe it's just because I know all this stuff, like the ball that McConaughey uses, you know, those are insanely important to the book, but they just throw it out there like, "Yep, I got a ball," and
but it's obviously a device that, you know, he uses much similar to I've seen used in Lord of the Rings or something like that, you know, to look into other places or those kind of things. I mean, they give enough information for me not to go, what was that about? Like, you know, even though they don't go deep enough for you because you know more, like for me, that was plenty. I didn't need to know more about that object.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about. Like people going, wait, what was that thing? Why did he even bring that up? But I guess you're saying like, okay, I understand what his purpose was for the movie.
Purpose. Yeah, for the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I was concerned, so you just alleviated that for me.
I think for me, I really also, even though it's too far and few between, and this is kind of a pro and a con, I really did enjoy the action. As I mentioned, every single good action moment in this movie is in the trailer. There are, and I guess in spoilers, I'll go into details about 4 very specific things that happen in the movie that I was just like, wow, that's cool. Yeah. And they're all in the trailer. And so, but I did have those moments. But if you've seen the trailer, you won't have those moments. You know, you may have had them, I guess, a little bit in the trailer out of context, but you won't have them in the, you know, in the story of the movie. So I did enjoy that. I will say, however, that a lot of the action is dark and it's difficult to see. There was action with a creature that I really wish I could have seen clearer. But it's kind of at night, and I wonder if that was to hide some of this, you know, CG stuff or what. But
did you pick up on Easter eggs for other Stephen King properties in this movie? None?
No, I didn't.
There was hundreds of them.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Like, I can throw them out because they're not spoilers.
Okay.
But do you remember when they're
maybe
going...
just pick, like, you know,
one or
few.
Two. Yeah, so remember when he's in the psychiatrist office? And there was the earthquake going on.
Yes.
In the background is a picture of the Overlook Hotel from The Shining.
Oh, cool.
Whenever they're going through the amusement park, one of the names of the rides is Pennywise.
Yes.
So you saw that one.
I did see that one, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's just a few of them, but there's a lot. There's a lot.
Did you like that or not like that?
I was okay with it.
Yeah, just little Easter eggs.
Just little Easter eggs, so.
Yeah, I didn't even really notice it, but yeah, I think I'm ready to start talking about negatives, if you want to go more specific, other than it, you know, wasn't like the book.
So, I'll let you go.
For me, the reason these characters don't work is because there's no energy to the movie. The movie doesn't feel like it has any kind of electricity running through it. What I mean by that is, even though there's some backstory, like with this teenager who's at the center of the story, there's some really could be powerful backstory, but it never locks in what we're supposed to think about his journey in dealing with that backstory. Like, it never locks into, the metaphor never locks in. It brushes against a really cool metaphor about what happened to him in his past and how that relates to this new world.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that stuff, but it never locked in. It was always just kind of on the surface and here or there. And so I think the movie lacks energy in that way. And for as tight of a movie as it was, with a pretty short runtime for a movie like this, it did feel somehow still it was a little bit plotting. Like, there was just still moments where it was like, where's the energy to this, you know? When those cool action things happened, I was like, yes, but, you know, kind of in between, I was just like, I don't know. The dialogue wasn't electric enough to pull me along. Even though I was learning stuff, I wasn't like being pulled along by the momentum of it. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
So I really felt like that was a big flaw with the movie for me. And really the only major flaw I had.
So I think that they tried to turn this story, again, comparison, into more of a YA film. Did it feel like that at all to you?
No, because there wasn't a love story. Like, I didn't feel YA at all to me. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking like Twilight and...
No, I'm talking about making the purpose of the film like about a young man and his journey. Because I don't think...
Maybe in that way.
I don't think YA intentionally or always has to be romantic in fashion.
It usually is, but you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
No.
There's a real thing about becoming a man here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real sense of what it means to, be a man. In that kind of way. So I think that's, one of the purposes in having that kind of teenage protagonist.
Cool.
So,
any more cons?
No, that really was the major one for me. I mentioned that, the darkness in the action scenes, those kind of things. Is most of yours going to be in spoilers, like coming down to the differences? It's going to have to be a lot
spoilers, yeah.
See, this is let's just talk about this a little bit further before we move on, because I think this is important to distinguish. When I read Lord of the Rings and then saw the Lord of the Rings movies.
Ooh, that reminds me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll let you finish, though.
Well, I was just going to say, this is where I first learned how to separate myself from expectations of a movie to be a book. Having said that, Peter Jackson did a pretty phenomenal job of staying true to the source material as much as he can, but he changed some pretty major things over the course of those 3 movies. And that's where I learned to go, you know what? That's okay because it serves the movie better. Now, that's different than changing the heart of a world that you've fallen in love with. So I can understand how there's a difference there. But at the end of the day, I do feel like every movie should have the chance to just stand up as its own movie and just say, okay, this is what I'm giving you. It's look at the comic book movies. Obviously, they're taking those universes and changing a lot of the way characters relate to each other, those kind of things. And I think they just thought they could do that with this universe as well.
Yeah. I was thinking, because I knew it was going to be difficult for me to show you or to tell you what this movie was like for me to watch. And I think I came up with a pretty good comparison.
Oh, okay, good.
So imagine it's the year 2000. I come up to you, say that I'm a Hollywood executive, and that next year we're going to be adapting the Lord of the Rings books into film.
Right.
You get excited, right?
Absolutely.
You're a huge fan of the books, right?
Yep.
And I say, obviously, we're going to have to make some adaptations because we always do. You're okay with that.
Yeah.
I say, we're going to make The Hobbit and all the Lord of the Rings movies or books into one movie.
Okay.
You tell yourself, wow, that's a lot to try and compress. But, it's doable. So I say, yeah, we're going to have to make some compromises. So Legolas, Gimli, and all the hobbits except for Frodo. Get them out of there. They're a waste.
Okay.
Take Aragorn. Make him reluctant and not want to help Frodo.
Uh-huh.
Grima Wormtongue, you remember him?
Yep.
We're now going to make him as powerful as Sauron. Also, Sauron and Saruman, not in it. Grima Wormtongue is now the official villain of The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
What would you think of that? We're also going to add some weird future technology just for the heck of it.
I wouldn't think that was the same source material. I would think that was a whole different thing.
It's as if Akiva Goldsman did not read the books. What he did is he went online to SparkNotes, copied all the SparkNotes, and ran them through Google Translate. And whatever came out on the other side is what he turned into the script.
I have had this experience, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you think hard enough, I think everybody can know what this experience was for me.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Oh.
It was The Last Airbender, man.
Oh, yeah.
I have had this experience. Of course, I think The Last Airbender is also an awful movie. Even, if it hadn't been based on anything, it's an awful movie. But they completely misunderstood that source material in that world.
I've never seen The Last Airbender, and I can concur that it's an awful movie. I've never seen the show, but the movie's awful.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I at least feel like The Dark Tower, if you as somebody who's never read the book, and again, I know I'm in the minority of this after I went and looked at what other people are saying after I did my review.
Am I being validated?
Yeah, I think it's like at an 18% or something on Rotten Tomatoes. And
it's too high.
I was
that's not true. 18.
I think for a standalone movie, if you don't know any of the source material, that is way underrated. I think there's actually some decent stuff here. Now, again, I gave it like a C+. It's not like I love it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think they did some things right here.
Yeah. The Dark Tower series' overall message is about pushing yourself beyond what you think you ever thought you were capable of, finding the strength within yourself to conquer your inner demons, and finding out what you're willing to sacrifice for the greater good of all. The film is nothing like that, and people who haven't read the books, who watch the film, are now probably not going to be interested if they didn't like it in reading the books, and I think that's a terrible shame. So
that is sad. Yeah.
Akiva Goldsman, you have forgotten the face of your father.
That's a good place to move on. Let's remember the good times, Andrew. Let's remember when people made good adaptations of Stephen King books.
Yeah!
We're going to do a best ever challenge. Best ever Stephen King adaptations. We will rank our top 3 from number 3 to number 1. And of course, we can call Trump if one of us has it ranked higher.
This was so difficult for me. I love Stephen King books. I've read a lot of them, but there have been so many good adaptations
and
to
so
film.
Many bad ones.
Well, there's been a lot of bad. Yeah, you got to. They're going all over the world. But as bad as some of them are, there's something on the opposite end of that spectrum, and there's some phenomenal ones.
Yeah, I had no problem coming up with about 9 total, so like 6
I think I have
honorable
somewhere
mentions.
around there. Yeah.
One of which may surprise you, but let's go ahead with our top 3. We'll start at number 3. I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll have this one on your list. I could be wrong. I love The Mist.
It's in my honorable mentions. It's so good.
It is so good. It's very well done throughout, but the ending of that movie is it's mind-blowing on a couple levels, because it's mind-blowing in what happens, and it's also mind-blowing thematically. Like, thematically, it just ties everything together in this ugly bow, and it's just, I was blown away at the end of The Mist. Like, I sat there at the end of The Mist for probably 5 minutes just staring at the credits as they rolled.
That's not how the book ends, The Mist.
Oh, really?
The book ends with them just driving off, and you don't know what happens to them.
Okay. Well, I don't want to ruin the end of The Mist in case somebody's just going to go out and see it, but
The Mist, the ending of The Mist, whenever my friends and I, whenever I was doing the Flick Freaks podcast, we were doing a ranking best endings in movies, and The Mist won. Because that ending sits with you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's something. I'll just say it's something.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so that pulled it all the way up to my number 3. What's your number 3?
I'm probably going to get trumped. Stand By Me.
No, you're not going to get trumped on that.
Oh, really?
That's in my honorable mentions.
Woo!
Yeah.
What a good movie.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
River Phoenix, Will Wheaton, man, they bring it. And The Body, great book, but this is one of the few times, for me, my top 3 are adaptations that were better than the books. So,
it's interesting. You already talked about the ending of The Mist is different.
Yeah.
You know how Stand By Me is different. Maybe this is just a Stephen King thing. Maybe he just really doesn't mind his books being changed, to go to the big screen. I think the difference with The Dark Tower is it's a lot of books, and so it already is an expanded universe, and so there's something more to betray there, I think.
And a lot of people don't know this. Stephen King's books, they're all connected together. Characters from different books
it's all
show
an
up.
expanded universe, yeah.
And it's actually The Dark Tower where they all come together. So that's what The Dark Tower really is. It's a culmination of all the books. And you're like, well, how does that character from that book end up in that book?
Yeah.
Through The Dark Tower. And you see it happen in the books.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Ready for my number 2?
Absolutely.
Green Mile.
Same.
All right. Let's chat about it.
So the ending of The Mist is pretty heavy. The entire movie of The Green Mile is heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one you have to carry on your shoulders all the way through.
A lot of people would say that, it's just Tom Hanks, doing his thing. He is way overshadowed by Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, Clark Duncan's amazing in that movie.
Yeah. The ending of that just tears your heart out.
Now, is Green Mile Frank Darabont as well?
It is. So Darabont, who also did The Mist.
And did The Mist.
Yeah, he loves to partner with King because he knows how to adapt those.
Yeah, definitely. I love The Green Mile. I love it thematically. It is a heavy movie to hold through the entire film. But I think that's to the movie's benefit. I think it's to the movie's credit that it doesn't shy away from that heaviness. So yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, I'll be honest. Because it's not one I'm ever excited just to throw in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
it's not. Hey guys, you want to watch The Green Mile? That's not a movie you have. That's not a movie you have.
Let's watch a movie.
That's not a movie you have people come over, eat popcorn, and watch, and expect to have a happy,
right.
jolly time.
Yeah. No. That's when you sit alone in your room and watch and weep.
Yeah, exactly. We potentially had the same number
I'm
one as
sure
well.
we have the same number one. Is it also Darabont?
Shawshank
Redemption.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, man. The guy knows how to adapt Stephen King.
Yeah.
So.
Shawshank is one of those movies that's, that did not succeed when it came out, but man, has it certainly blown up since then, and now considered one of the best movies ever made. And
on IMDb, it's ranked the number one movie of all time.
It's just, what an incredible story. Great performances.
Oh, yeah, man. Tim Robbins, so good. And Morgan Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think because I've always been a fan of prison movies, like what's life like in prison. That's why I found Oz so fascinating. This is a period piece, which I also am this movie has everything that I love.
Yeah.
And then the ending of this movie is, whoa, that came out of nowhere. And then you have to rewatch the movie and try and put all the pieces together and try and I see what happened there.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those inner secrets that you get to keep for yourself.
Yeah, Shawshank is definitely deserves kind of the place that it's been given as time has gone on. So,
and the thing that Stephen King is really good at is making it easy to hate the villains. If you think of a Green Mile or even Shawshank or even Stand By Me, all of his movies, there's villains in them you naturally hate. But he can even turn them up to 11 to where you hate them so much.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because I remember growing up thinking of Stephen King. It was all very much, he was a horror writer,
Pet Sematary.
Yeah. And so it was very much, I think because he explored such darkness in his writing about characters that he is able to then nuance that in a more broad story as a villain. So the villain, is still, he understands that darkness well enough to capture how it would look in an everyday situation. So, as opposed to, like a psychotic clown or something.
Yeah. It's, again, pretty easy to hate that villain.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. Honorable mentions?
Yeah, throw some out, man.
It was so close for my number 3 to get overdone by this one, but Misery.
Yeah, Misery's on my honorable mentions as well.
It was so close to being my number 3. Oh, Catherine Bates. She's terrifying. She's one of the greatest villains of all time.
Hobbling, right?
The hobbling scene. You can't watch it.
No.
That hobbling scene. Whenever anybody thinks of Misery, everybody goes, hobbling scene.
Hobbling scene.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about The Shining?
Yeah, neither of us mentioned The Shining yet, which I think would probably be on a lot of people's top 3 for sure.
Exactly.
I'm just not a horror person, and there's just a lot of really graphic stuff in that movie that just kind of turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the psychological tension of it is interesting.
Yeah.
And of course Nicholson's phenomenal.
Interestingly enough, Stephen King hates this movie. Because he said it's one of the worst adaptations of his book ever.
Interesting.
And it is definitely nothing like the book. Not even close.
Huh.
Kubrick went all over the place with this, and it is there's an Overlook Hotel, and there's, the family. That's about it. Everything else
is different.
Yeah.
That's probably why he's so chill about The Dark Tower. He's like, can't get any worse than The Shining.
Challenge accepted, said Nicola Arcel and Kiwi Goldsman. Carrie. Did you like Carrie?
That's also in my honorable mentions. Yeah. The old one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new one, actually.
It's actually not bad as far as a remake goes.
Mm-hmm.
It actually added a little bit of depth to what was going on there with the character of Carrie. That I thought informed it in a really interesting way, in a modern way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to go with the classic if you're going to talk best.
Oh, yeah. It's what launched his career, actually. First book.
Was that the first one he wrote?
I think so.
Wow.
Either Carrie or Christine. I think it was Carrie. Pet Sematary is the first Stephen King book I ever read, and also the first movie of his I ever saw.
I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, or read it.
Haunting movie. And I don't know.
Well, I figure if they're dead pets, there might be some haunting going on.
Actually, that's not what it is. I don't know if we can count it because it's not technically a movie, but it.
Well, it will be.
It will be. And talk
Literally,
about a Stephen King property I'm excited to see adapted.
Yeah.
I think I know you don't watch trailers. This has the potential to be one of the best adaptations.
Yeah, but isn't it horror? I just can't get excited for a horror movie.
Neither. I hate horror movies.
Yeah.
I am beyond excited for this. It looks terrifying beyond everything, but it also looks like a fascinating story.
All right, fascinating story I might be interested in, but I'm just not, like, just scaring me doesn't do it for me. Like,
you love Stranger Things, right?
Yeah.
You're probably going to like it. Because that's what it is. And even kids from Stranger Things are in it.
Every time we discuss this movie, I feel like we're playing an Abbott and Costello game.
Who's on first?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Cujo?
I didn't have Cujo in my... I haven't seen it, but...
I like Cujo a lot. It's just terrifying.
I have a friend with a dog named Cujo.
It's very... oh, nice. It's a very claustrophobic movie because they're trapped in a car with a rabid dog, like not letting them out. So you feel very claustrophobic, and it's hot, because you're in a hot burning car with it won't start because it's a classic horror movie. Cars don't start when you need them to.
Well, of course not.
So it's one of those movies, kind of like what's the Spike Lee movie where they're in New York? As you're watching these characters like boil and hot, you start to get hot. You're like, man, I can totally relate.
There's a real empathy to it.
Exactly. So that's why I liked Cujo a lot. You probably have some more.
I had The Running Man on there. So
another terrible adaptation.
I don't know. I like The Running Man. I find it to be very fascinating. It's so prescient.
Do the Right Thing. Thank you very much. I knew it was something like that. I wanted to say Let the Right One In, but that's the vampire movie.
It's totally different.
Yeah. Do the Right Thing.
I feel like The Running Man deserves credit, if for nothing else, to being so prescient about, reality shows, the future, the entertainment of destruction, the bringing back of, the gladiator kind of idea, that kind of thing. I know it's not a great movie, but I think it, deserves maybe a shout out.
I honestly don't mind Running Man as far as adaptations. The book is about one person is selected and they don't enter an arena. The world is the arena. You have to survive for an entire year while you're being hunted by the rest of the world.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. But Schwarzenegger, it's a fun movie. It's just like you said, it's not going to win any Oscars, but as far as, getting that whole 80s machismo thing going on, they nailed that.
Yeah. The other one I mentioned, and I know a lot of people would disagree with me on this, I really liked Secret Window with Johnny Depp. It was just clever enough for me to walk away with a smile. You know what I mean?
Like, stole my story.
Yeah. Yeah. I found the weaving of that to be interesting, and I thought the Depp performance was really good too. So I would throw that out there as probably an underseen and I would say underrated one of those.
Very nice. I think we had a good list there.
Yeah, no, I think that works well. Before we head on to our Sift quest, I want to remind you that this podcast is on a fan-funded podcast network. So the only reason this podcast can exist is because of Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can go to patreon.com/StudioDNA to check out how to support. I will also tell you this month, every single dollar that comes in for Studio DNA is going right back out the door to help a friend of the podcast who is living in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and every day is investigating sex trafficking in Cambodia and helping bring to justice these Westerners who go over there because the laws are a little more lax, the policing is more lax, and so they're able to exploit children and women in ways that are just unspeakable, honestly. And he is there every day fighting that, and we're hoping to raise $3,000 to help him with his task. That would give him enough money for 1 year to hire somebody to help him with his investigations, those kind of things. He's working with a couple great organizations over there as well to fight human trafficking. So if you would be willing for this month, even if it's just for this month, to support, we would love for that number at the end of this month to be up to $3,000 to be able to send him that money. If you already give, if you would think about increasing, again, it could just be for this month and you can bring it back down next month. Mainly, we want to be able to help him as much as we can. Thanks to Nick, who just increased his pledge for this month up to $50. So that puts the total over $300, and I would love to see the podcast network get up to that $1,000 mark pretty quickly here early in the month. So if you would do that, maybe do $50, $100, maybe even just start at $5 or something like that. It all goes to help this month. Every single dollar is going to him. So we'd love to have you on board. Studio DNA is the name of the podcast network. So you go to patreon.com/StudioDNA. And thank you so much for doing that. All right, you ready for the Sift quest?
Sift quest.
Each week we venture forth together on a Sift quest that you have sent us on. It could be a question, a debate, if you've got an argument you need settled, whatever it is, just send it to us. You can tweet me at Aaron Dicer or email us at feedback@siftpop.com. Today's Sift quest was launched by Jack via Twitter. Jack says, I have a potential Sift quest. What are your favorite opening scenes to movies? My favorite has got to be Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, okay. You didn't tell me that. The last part of that.
That was one of yours?
I have a top 3, and number 3 was Inglourious Bastards.
Well, there you go. See? Yeah. Well, go ahead and talk about it a little bit, because he didn't really talk about why he likes that opening scene so much.
The intensity that Christoph Waltz brings to the beginning of that movie, where he's talking about them being under the floorboards.
Yeah.
It's just his confidence in his evilness, and it's nothing that I'd ever seen from a Tarantino film. So maybe that was why I was so blown away by that. I'm like, this feels more like a Spielberg intro. And obviously the rest of the movie definitely falls in line with what you see from a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
But that the beginning of that movie is so tense. I loved it.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and let's just bounce back and forth.
Okay.
I've actually got a list of, I don't know, maybe 6.
Oh, nice.
But I'm going to start with what I think is the best.
Okay.
I think this is the best opening of a movie ever. Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is.
Yeah.
It is just pure, amazing wonderfulness. Just seeing the character of Indiana Jones for the first time, you know exactly who he is. His cocky nature through this progress. He's doing an obstacle course in an ancient he's running from a boulder. It's just, I cannot think of an opening scene that I love more than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Him and Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
Did you know that was him?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
As it was his first role. That was crazy.
That snake.
Yeah. You throw me the whip. Or throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I can't knock you for that. Whenever that boulder starts rolling down, like, oh, here we go. This is gonna go.
Yeah, it's a scene I've even seen several more times at the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular at Disney Studios.
I always wanted to go to that. I imagine that would.
I was in it one time. They picked me as one of the extras.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
It was one.
My next one, my number 2, The Matrix. Trinity escaping from the agents.
No, that's a good one.
Because you don't know what's going on. You have no idea. And then she runs into that phone booth while that dump truck is just facing her, and it starts ringing, and you're like, why is she running to the phone?
What? Yeah. Why is she answering a phone call?
Yeah, and then it's one of the things, after you watch the entire movie, you go back and you watch it, and you appreciate that intro so much more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My next one, I'm not necessarily going in order at this point, but these are just some that I feel like are really worthy of mentioning. Scream, I think, is worth mentioning. That first Drew Barrymore kill in Scream rightfully sets those movies up as something that is both parody and also an excellent version of itself. Now, those movies kind of went off the deep end, probably about, the third one. The first 2 are actually pretty interesting, but they got a little too clever and full of themselves, I think, for me. But that first one is just the perfect balance, and that opening scene just sets everything up so perfectly.
I gotcha. My number 1, I love bank heists. Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea what my number 1 is?
If you're going to go bank heist, I'm guessing Dark Knight.
It's The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that was on my list as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
I kill the bus driver.
It just sets up, again, the opening scene has a real interesting task, right? It has to pull the audience in a big way and set everything up for the rest of the movie, and yet not overshadow the rest of the movie. Sometimes a movie will have too good of a first scene, and it never lives up to it again.
Just thought of one. Skyfall's opening scene.
Yeah, several of the Bond movies.
Not Skyfall. What's the newest? Quantum. No.
I was going to say Quantum of Solace.
No, it's the newest one.
Spectre?
Spectre. The beginning of Spectre, where he's like on
the roof?
Yeah,
on the
roof. And
yeah,
the helicopter.
That's what I'm thinking of too, yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the movie's garbage, but that beginning of that movie's great.
Right, exactly. And that's, that is a great opening, but at the same time, it wouldn't be on my list of best opening because it doesn't do the job of an opening scene in that, the rest of the movie can't live up to it.
Whereas in The Dark Knight,
the rest of the movie lives up to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be hard-pressed to think of an opening that was better than The Dark Knight. But you have more on your list.
I do. In some that I think we give The Dark Knight a run for their money. This one probably not. It's more recent, but I just have to mention it. La La Land.
Don't say Up.
I was going to say Up eventually.
Okay.
But but I was going to start with La La Land.
The one shot.
The opening one-shot traffic song of La La Land, Another Day of Sun, is, again, I've seen that movie even since it's been out, a dozen times. And I just, when the big La La Land letters pop up on that last final, brass, beat, it's just like I literally want to stand and applaud every time I see that scene. It's just, It's so good.
I remember watching that with you. You'd seen it a couple times before I saw it with you, and I looked over and I'm like, this is all one shot, isn't it? And you just had this big old grin on your face like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Man, that has to be one for me. Did you have any more you wanted to volley back and forth with? Or?
I just thought of one. I don't know if I could count it as one of the greats, but we talked about Up, and I remember thinking, this movie, the intro of this movie is kind of like Up, Arrival. The beginning of Arrival takes you on an emotional journey, immediately.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And again, the rest of the movie lives up to it. It's one of my favorite movies now.
Yeah.
But the montage of emotion.
Yeah.
It makes it really heavy.
Yeah, and I do think Up is kind of known for that amazing first 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost interesting in that I wouldn't even necessarily call that the first scene of the movie. It's almost the first movement of the movie. You know what I mean? Like It feels like it's almost more than a scene. It's almost its own movie in a lot of ways. Another one I would say, Saving Private Ryan. That opening D-Day stuff is just puts you right in the middle of war. Says, look, we're not going to pull any punches on this. And you just, I've never felt like I understood what it was like to actually be in a war as much as watching that first scene of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And then the only other one I had was Rear Window. I love what Hitchcock does in introducing us to the entire concept of the movie in those first minutes as we take a trip around the neighborhood.
Does that start with him in the binoculars?
Yep, we're just taking a trip around the, the different homes that are going to be the people that we see throughout this story. So
I only saw that movie once when I was very young.
You need to see it again then.
Yeah.
We got to do that Hitchcock marathon. I'm telling you.
I have the theater, man. You just got to let me know.
All right.
We'll make it happen.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Thanks for getting you that Sift quest. If you want to do it via Twitter, just at me, at Aaron Dicer, AARONDICER. You can also email feedback at siftpop.com. We would love to discuss whatever you want us to discuss about movies. So launch your own Sift quest, and maybe we'll do it next week. Just leaves us with the buried treasure, my friend.
That's it.
I'm going to make you go first.
I mentioned it last week, but I finally finished it, Ozark.
Okay, so talk a little bit about it, because you really didn't talk about it last week. I'm only one episode in. I really loved the first episode, but I haven't gone beyond it. Does it stay really good?
It does. I think all the way through the end, you're wanting to know what's going to happen to this family. It does feel very local, because you kind of like, oh yeah, that's exactly how everything goes over here. I don't appreciate the 100% redneckery of the whole movie, thinking that just
because you live here,
that you're obviously like that, and but at the same time, they get lake life pretty spot on. But beyond that, the intensity of just wanting to know what's going to happen is palpable throughout the entire.
How's the payoff?
Very good. It sets up subsequent
another
seasons.
Season. That's great. That's fine.
You're like, oh, this is going to be good now. So I really like where it's heading, and it's a direction I did not see coming.
Oh, cool.
So
cool. I finished up something on Netflix as well. No, not Netflix. Hulu. Handmaid's Tale. So I managed to get all the way through that, and managed is the right word. Like you just kind of plow through it. That's what I heard before I started watching it. Was
I told you.
It's a trek. So
I even still have a couple episodes because I'm still taking breaks between episodes.
Oh, you're not done yet?
No, I think I have 2 or 3 episodes left.
I think this show kicked in about episode 7. I really wasn't that much with it through the first 6 episodes, meaning that I understood what they were setting up, and I understood the horribleness of the world, that kind of thing. And the performances are fine, but I think there's some things that happen in that episode 6, episode 7 range that transitioned my mind into a greater understanding of the world that helped me to log in better. It helped me to find that context and that foundation to care a little bit more about the overall picture and not just, kind of those moments, those, smaller moments.
Do you find this world too unbelievable, or do you find it too believable?
A little of both, right?
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I think your brain is fighting itself. It's one of the interesting things about the show and the reason I think I would give it a cautionary recommend is it's interesting in that your brain is fighting itself going, this could never happen.
Yeah.
Like, you want to believe that this could never happen, and then your brain immediately goes to places in the world where it's actually still happening,
and you're like,
in
whoa.
some way, and you're going, oh yeah, I could live in a country, because it puts you in the mindset of going, oh, my country could be that, when you destabilize government and you have competing armies or government factions, the winner gets to decide. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so it really puts you in a place of understanding. I think part of the beauty of it is understanding how beautiful our system is. That we get to have these conversations and talk about these things and pursue a better nation together, as opposed to being in a place where everything is decided for us. But then I look at it and go, I wouldn't get too comfortable and think it couldn't happen, because it absolutely could. So,
right there with you.
Yeah, it's kind of scary and interesting all at the same time.
Very nice.
There you go. We did it, Andrew.
Huzzahs!
Podcasting has commenced,
Palindrome,
proceeded, and happened.
Palindrome 101.
Thanks so much for joining us today for Siftpop. It is part of the Studio DNA podcast network. You can find out more about other live and later shows on the network by following the feed at mixlr.com/studiodna. That's where we go live. mixlr.com/studiodna. Huge thanks to Andrew for being my buddy today and being the second one. Do you have anything you want to let people know about?
I took a break from YouTube for a week or so, but I'm starting to ease myself back in now. So I don't really have anything coming up besides just the regular old rigmarole. So if you head over to youtube.com/flickfreaks, if you're not subscribed, we just passed 46,000 subscribers. On our way to that big 5-0 pretty soon. Excited about that. Oh, I do have something to plug. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, go ahead.
Next month, September, I'm going out to LA. Going to be collaborating with Greg Alba, who was on the show not too long ago.
Cool.
Him, might try and get on Movie Trivia Schmodown. Don't know how that'll play out, but
that'd be fun.
It would be a lot of fun.
Well, enjoy your time in LA, man.
I'm excited to be my first time out there.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
As for me, you can check out the YouTube channel, Your Movie Friend. Just search for it. That's where all my reviews are, and you can support that at the Patreon, whatever you want to do. Definitely appreciate it. Much love and gratitude to our Patreon supporters for the podcast network as well, for giving monthly to make this show and others on the network possible. Support starts at $3 a month, comes with some pretty fun perks, and every dollar again that comes in for the month of August will go straight to fight human trafficking at its source in Cambodia. So excited for you to help us out with that. You can find out more at patreon.com/studiodna. There's lots of ways to connect with the podcast. Leave a comment at SoundCloud. You can tweet at us, leave an iTunes comment or rating. That helps out a lot. Or you can email us at feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like it too, so let them know about the podcast and that listening is much easier than reloading a gun with no hands. Spoiler chat for this week's movie should be next up in your podcast feed, and we'll see you back next week. I think we're going to do our TV awards for 2017, so lots of TV talk next week, and we'll see you there.